Why, hello, hello, hello. Once again, it's your guy. It's the coach, Ty A. And I'm here with my rib unit, my wife unit, my partner in crime, the most beautiful and intelligent attorney I know.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us again, and we'd like to welcome all new viewers.
The wife and I wanted to sit down and put another video out. It's been about a week or so since we put out one. I know that a lot of people have been kind of easing into the end of the school year as you've had to adjust to homeschooling, as the districts have been handling and responding to the COVID virus. One of the things that you continue to hear as the districts and the states and the country and the world is dealing with the COVID virus is, what is the new normal going to look like? So we wanted to talk to you today and tell you what we expect the new normal to look like.
Right.
Then we also wanted to share some tips and some things that you can do to prepare yourself for the new normal. Now, we aren't big fans of the whole phrase of the new normal. We are hopeful that things will return to some resemblance of what it was previous to the COVID virus. But it's important that we be prepared and that you be prepared for what the government and the world may do in response to the COVID virus. And that's why we want to talk to you about what we anticipate the new normal being.
Right. And, this new normal is something that, even though it's said to be new, it was something that was in the works. A lot of people saw it coming. A lot of teachers were concerned about the push towards removing teachers from classrooms and having a model where there was distance learning or a teacher teaching in the class online, remotely, and then the classroom being facilitators being in the classroom instead of teachers.
The reality of the new normal for education is going to be a lot of government entities taking advantage of this opportunity to address a lot of their fiscal concerns when it comes to things like unfunded pensions. Allowing students to learn remotely will help them in addressing that, because they will be able to have one teacher facilitating learning in a remote manner. Right. And you've seen, and we've seen, if you paid attention, how districts have been preparing us for this model. You've heard, and it's probably happened in your district, and you know how third graders or fourth graders throughout the district, the goal of the district has been to keep all of these students aligned by grade.
Right.
So whether you're in third grade at the elementary school down the street from you, or in third grade at the elementary school around at the other side of town from you, if they're in the same district, the district has been working on making sure all those third graders are on the same page, covering the same thing on the same day, in order to get everyone together so that eventually you would need a teacher in every one of those classes, but you can have one facilitator leading the kids through the learning process all on the same page.
Right, and it was called paced learning at some point, but if you look at the Common Core policies and rules, it actually indicates, what grade level, and what week, and what day. So you can actually go and to whatever state you're in and look and see that those guidelines have the kids on the same page on the same day.
So this is what distant learning is going to look like, and this is how it's going to help the districts. Like, and it's a common phrase when you want to seek an answer to a question, we want to figure out what's going to happen, follow the money. And we can follow the money here and see how districts will be able to save huge amounts of dollars. They can, moving forward, only have to hire. Imagine the district having one third grade teacher for the entire district.
Right.
Imagine that. Imagine how much money they'll save. Now, the fact that everything is going to be at home, that's not a reality. Our school model system is still largely based on taking care of children while parents go out and work.
Right.
So that need does not change.
Right.
But the ability to have a less qualified, less paid individual in a classroom to monitor behaviors while one teacher is teaching the entire grade in a district is going to save that district a lot of money.
Right. And while, we have governments talking about how do we figure out how to separate the kids and keep them socially distant. So, or put them in a big room and have them, distant from one another. So that right there is letting everyone know that there will be one teacher facilitator on, on the line, and then the kids spread out being taught, the same thing. So, we're actually being told what's happening. So if we're familiar with in the past how the system was working, then you can see that it's already set up for that.
I mean, because you can think about it. Is it really with social distancing, if we did return the children to the classroom, and we already have constantly heard about the shortage of teachers. Mm-hmm. So there's no way that they could feasibly separate children because classrooms in many districts are already overcrowded.
And with too few teachers.
So the answer isn't going to be to find and hire more teachers because they aren't out there. People aren't going into the profession as much, and it doesn't pay as much. Districts cannot afford to hire as many teachers as they used to. So there's no amount of money that they're going to be able to throw at the situation. So they're going to have to adjust how they handle their business while they still provide for that social distancing. And that's not going to be hiring more teachers. That's going to be hiring more lower paid, lower wage aides
and classroom monitors
mm-hmm. to handle the social distancing requirements of the new normal. Now, I know this sounds kind of scary for most. I've heard and I've seen the horror stories in social media with some of our clients that we talk to about how they're struggling with being responsible for their child's education. And we really feel that a big reason for this struggle is because they allowed themselves to get too hands off in their child's education in the first place. Mm-hmm. This is what, so when they were thrown back in your lap now, it's like, whoa, hey, I haven't been involved and engaged enough in this to be ready to handle this. This is where we really see two of the building blocks in our Amy approach to parenting will be very beneficial to you. And regardless of if the district does return back to what we would consider normal, these are still things that you want to maintain ownership of. The good thing coming out of this is that the onus is being returned back to the family for their child's education. The onus will be placed on your child to access and get their education. The resources will be there, but it won't be the individual attention that your child might need and really deserves in order to make sure they're grasping and retaining the information and the knowledge that they should receive from an education. The two building blocks that we want to talk about with the Amy approach to parenting that will help you prepare your child for what the new normal is will be the ability to learn and the love of learning. We identified these two separate necessities and things that we wanted to instill in our children early off because we recognize that if your child has the ability to learn, they know the learning process. They've learned the learning process. Then they aren't dependent on a teacher as much as they're depending on some support.
Right.
Help me if I don't understand as I go through the learning process. Not, hey, teach me this, or instead, show me where I can learn this because I have the ability to learn myself.
Right. And when your child has the ability to learn and they know that they do, when they come across something that's difficult for them, they won't feel like, oh, this is something I can never learn. They understand that this is something that I have to work to learn, and that learning is a process.
And it will continue to be a process. If you look at what the models are, like, I've talked to, one of our employees was telling me how bad they're struggling. I'm going to call her an employee. One of our people that we work with, because, California laws now. Mm-hmm. But one of the people that we contract with and works with our firm and our legal firm, she was explaining to me the difficulties that she's been having and how much she's hated this homeschool experience. And I communicated to her exactly what I'm communicating to you. You need to focus on teaching your children how to learn. Mm-hmm. This is something that we take for granted, and because most of us just learn how to learn without even focusing on it. It's a reason that the traditional education model, whether you were in math, science, history, regardless of the class, the way you learned each subject was the same. your teacher would introduce a new topic. The teacher would lead a discussion on the topic. The teacher would then hand out homework for you to go and practice so that you can reinforce what you learned in order to know and learn the topic. Now, this is the same in math, in English, in history. We're going to cover a section in the textbook. We're going to discuss the section or do an activity that reinforces what we covered. And then you're going to do homework or a project to reinforce what it is that we covered. This is the learning process. Most of us don't make that connection because we're just focused on learning, but you are learning. This is one of the biggest things that you want to get out of education is how to learn. How do I use a textbook?
Right.
Why do I take notes? What do I take in my notes in order to help me learn and retain?
Right. And I think the model that the schools have been on it's become so grade focused that people have gotten away from the process of learning and not understanding that learning is something that you have to learn how to do and practice doing, because the goal is let me learn this really quickly, get this grade, then I can forget and move on.
So this is something, and we'll talk about the love of learning in a minute, but this is something, the ability to learn, as you ease into your summer coming up and you're stepping away from whatever directed curriculum that was still coming from your school, this is a great opportunity for you to do what we call in our homeschooling system, the summer slowdown. We don't stop the learning process. We continue. We taper back a little bit. We don't have to spend as much time or cover as much material per day. But we still make sure we're doing some type of learning each and every day to continue to develop that ability to learn and also instill that love of learning.
Right. And I think one important thing about understanding the learning process is because, as we said before, the jobs of the future don't exist today. So your children will have to teach themselves how to develop skills that were never taught. So you want your child to learn the process of learning. It's going to benefit them in the future for their careers and entire lives.
So this summer, or over the next few weeks, and as you ease through the summer before, whatever model of learning and teaching that your district comes out with next year, you want to spend this time going over with your child, how do you learn? How do we access and use textbooks? How do we use our resources to get the information that we need? Why is it important that we practice? Because practice develops and builds up retention. You want to take the time to really make that connection with your child so as they move into the next school year or whatever education model that they have, your child is going into it feeling confident and ready to, I know how to learn. So however they want to teach me, whatever they're going to cover, I know how to access that and learn for myself. This will ease your process and ease the burden on you and your pain when it comes to your child in distant learning. If they have those abilities in them, then they're not asking you what's this? Right. What's the answer? How do I do this? Teach them the steps now. Have them practice the steps over this summer so that they're ready. Right.
And I think if your child is coming to you asking, how do I do this? That's an opportunity to talk out the learning process. Or what do you think you should do? What did we do last time? What are the rules that we follow to solve this problem? And so instead of you just working them through the problem
or giving them the answer,
talk through it. Because a lot of times, people do learn differently. So, your child might be a child who needs to talk out the problem. And so that conversation is actually helping them to memorize the parts that they need to do to solve
the steps. The steps to complete the problem or the steps to complete the project. So very important to take this time to really work on developing the ability to learn in your child. And then as Nicole was mentioning, and it's funny because the reason that the ability to learn and the love of learning are so important when it comes to the AME approach for parenting is, as Nicole mentioned, in your job or in your career, in your life, there is going to consistently be a need to learn. If you want to advance in whatever profession that you choose or even in your job, continuing to learn is the way and the path to growth in your job and in your profession. A lot of professional jobs, as like attorneys and doctors, they actually have continued learning requirements that they have to do in order to maintain their license. The very first thing, no matter what degree you get, the very first thing you're going to do when you get a new job is you're going to have to go through training. So if you don't know how to learn, if all your own whole focus has been on just getting the work done and getting through, and you haven't really grasped how to learn, and you haven't developed that love of learning, it's going to show. And you're not going to be enthusiastic. You're going to struggle when you go to training to learn, because even with your degree, some companies, some jobs is going to have to teach you how we do things. And often you're evaluated based off of how you are receiving that training. Are you a go-getter? Are you aggressive in the training? Or are you someone that's reluctant? Are you someone that's hating the fact that you have to go through training again? You just hate the learning process so much that you hate having to go sit back and learn something. You're being evaluated. Your child will be evaluated when they go through that process. And that could immediately put a black mark on their record. Like, oh, this person, look how long it takes them to get this. This isn't somebody that we've identified that we see moving up in our company. Or look how reluctant they are to attend training. Look how they're barely doing enough to get past training. If you don't instill the ability to learn and the love of learning in your child, you're automatically setting them up in a position to be less successful in life. You're creating a ceiling in their careers because they are not going to want to go out and seek what they need in order to improve and get better.
Right. And for the love of learning, as a parent, you can identify maybe a hobby that you have, something that you enjoy doing. When you love to learn and love to do that hobby, learning something new gives you a sense of excitement because you want to advance in something that you love. And so when you're raising your children and you're educating your children, you want to instill in them the ability to know that, whatever you don't know is knowable. You can learn something new, and you don't want to penalize them if maybe you feel like they should have gotten it faster, picked it up quicker, or if they make a mistake in the process of learning, because learning is a process of making mistakes and having errors, trial and error, and then learning from those mistakes. So these are the ways you can teach your child how to love learning.
And we'll give you a perfect example. I don't knit. My wife doesn't knit. Our daughter, through exposure, we exposed her to knitting, and she really picked up and has an enjoyment of knitting. Neither of us have ever taught her how to knit, nor can we teach her or help her when she has any difficulties when she's trying to learn a new knitting strategy. But because she knows that she knows how to learn, she will go and she will find videos and tutorials and can sit there and digest the material and the teaching that's being done in that video and get better at knitting. We've watched her develop her skill at knitting through practice and going and finding resources to learn new techniques and strategies on how to knit the things that she wants to knit.
Right, and even, to the knitting, I had a great aunt who knitted, and so we have some of her knitted projects. So my daughter is like looking at the work and just evaluating how did she do this. So, doing that reverse engineering and trying to learn from just looking at the pattern, like how could this have been done? And so this is how, when you raise a child and teach them that they can make mistakes, then they feel empowered when they come to learn something new or are curious about doing something that they don't know how to do.
And then the rewards. When you celebrate and recognize the rewards of, you taught yourself that. You learned how to do that. Look at you. How did you learn that? You taught yourself that. These are the two of the building blocks that we think will really help you and help your child prepare for what the new normal is going to be. Because as I mentioned earlier, the onus and the ownership of your child's education is being shifted more and more to you and your child. And this is not a bad thing. You shouldn't feel panicked about this, but you do need to have a plan. You do need to have a direction that you want to make sure your child is going in, because with the facilitated learning model, it's only going to be about providing information, not developing the skills that will help your child to be successful in life. We've gone kind of long in this video. We're at the 19-minute mark, so we want to wrap it up. We want to thank you all for the time that you've taken to listen to this video. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, please feel free to reach out to us. If you're nervous about facing the new norm and you need some support, reach out. If you felt that the video was helpful, please share.
And this is a scarf our daughter knitted recently.
One of them, yeah.
One of her scarves.
So, with that being said, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
We hope you enjoyed the video. Peace, love, and soul.
Take care.